So again, my name is Jim Littleton. Good morning. And here I'm here to talk to you today about doing a team-based projects in an online environment. So it turns out that developing an online class using the material that has normally worked well in a face-to-face class is not an easy task. It's actually pretty difficult. The problem is, I actually think that a lot of your educators actually oversimplify the idea of transitioning from a face-to-face to online class. In fact, in my view, I kind of think this is how they see the problem. This is a course. This is a course online. And this is actually a pretty good analogy, because when you try to take a course that works well in a face-to-face environment and you try to put it online, it may not work as well or at all in that online environment. One aspect of a traditional class that does not work very well in an online environment is a team-based project. To understand why team-based projects don't work very well is you have to understand first the difference between an online class and a face-to-face class. In a face-to-face class, students attend class regularly. In many cases, they can attend class at least twice a week, which allows them to meet with their team members, discuss issues with the team, see what the status of the team project are, discuss any issues that may be affecting the team. Also, the instructor is there, so the team can ask questions. They can resolve issues that may be confusion with the requirements of the project. They can also verify what the instructor is looking for as far as his expectations for the project. And so therefore, just the nature of a face-to-face class actually promotes a successful team-based project. However, in an online course, students actually feel isolated from one another and also from the instructor. Even though they see each other on a regular basis, in a regular class, they still feel isolated. This prevents communication between the team members as well as the instructor. And therefore, this can cause a lot of frustration and also a lot of other problems with the team. And therefore, just the very nature of an online course can actually prevent a successful team-based project. Another thing we have to know about, understand about an online class is the difference between the type of students. Now, from psychology, we learn about the two primary types of personalities, type A and type B. Now, type A students, they tend to be overachievers. They want to do really well on projects. They want to be proactive when they deal with issues, and they tend to also get started right away. They also are usually very good multitaskers. They tend to be able to handle and juggle a lot of their projects from different courses at the same time. The problem with type A students, though, is they don't handle failure very well. Therefore, they can get stressed out very quickly they can actually fear failure and get stressed out very quickly. Type B students, on the other hand, tend to be kind of laid back. They can still be very eager to do a good job, but they don't take projects as seriously. They tend to be reactive to issues. They also tend to procrastinate starting an assignment. Okay. Also, type B students usually tend to focus on the job at hand. So they don't do very good multitasking. They tend to focus on the job that has the most priority or the closest due date, which can actually prolong procrastination on the next project that's due for the team project. So, but unlike a type A student, type B students tend to accept failure pretty well. Not that they like it, they actually just look at failure as a learning experience rather than a failure on their own part. And so placing type A and type B students on the same team together can cause a lot of problems. In fact, for type A students, this can be very stressful and frustrating, to the fact that type A students may, in the end, just throw their hands up and say, hey, I quit. And this actually happened to me when I did a team-based project in my first online class. I had a lot of high-achieving students that had done very well for me in previous classes who just said, hey, I can't stand it. I've sent emails out to my fellow students. They're not responding, and I cannot deal with the stress and the extra workload of trying to carry this entire project by myself. And therefore, they withdrew from my class, even within the first month of the term. And I was very concerned by this. And in fact, when I learned that other students were also threatening to withdraw, I finally said, that's it, I'm pulling the plug. It was just too much for me to realize that, this is not a good idea. Something went wrong. Even though I've done this project before in a regular face-to-face class, and it worked well. It did not work well in this online course. So I started trying to figure out what went wrong. Here I am, not even in the middle of the term, and I've had to cancel this entire project because it just wasn't working for some reason. What was the difference between an online class and a face-to-face class? Well, fortunately, I was already taking part in CERT's Teach Online seminar, and therefore I went and talked to one of the instructional designers to figure out, well, was there a way to make a team-based project work well online? I also did some additional research, and I found that and after working with some ideas, I came up with 4 steps to create a good, successful team-based project. So step 1, you want to create multiple deliverables. Don't rely on that one big project. You say, here you go, have that, I'll see you at the end of the term. That's not very good for a team-based project in an online class. Remember, we want communication. We want to prevent procrastination. And by doing multiple deliverables, that kind of holds off the idea of procrastination, also maintains that workload throughout the term. Step 2, provide a framework and a set of expectations for your students. Provide your students in the teams with rules. Also provide a set of penalties that will fall to your students who don't adhere to those rules. And also provide a set of expectations for what they can expect to do throughout the term on this project. Step 3, you want to provide peer evaluation. Too many times students feel that they're just stuck with their team. They can't help it. One team member's not doing their job. They're not producing high quality work. And here they are having to do extra work, but yet they're still getting the same grade. So they need a way to be able to evaluate their team members throughout the term so that as team members don't pull their weight, their grade can be affected on each deliverable. And step 4, provide examples. This way students can actually answer those questions they may have about the instructions, or they can actually understand what your expectations are as an instructor. They have the example that shows them, here's what I'm looking for. Now, I went ahead and applied these steps on the next time I did my team project in an online environment. So what I did, I broke my big team project down into, which was a research paper, into 3 primary deliverables. The first is prospectus. I took this from my master's degree idea, where this is where the team just says, hey, here's our major topic, I've summarized it in breadth, and oh, by the way, here are 3 additional areas I want to focus more research on within my topic area. And this gives them a goal of where they're going to shoot for towards their final research paper. Next is going to be a midterm report. This helps students show, hey, here's where we're at, midterm of the course, here's the work we've done so far on our project, here's a good introduction to our entire topic, here's a snapshot of the research we've done so far on our research, or on the different areas we've selected for our topic, as well as here's a list of all the references that we've collected so far for our research, as well as I had them go ahead and do team biographies. This way, it's just one thing that's out of the way. They don't have to worry with when it comes to the last minute of their research paper. And then finally, the last deliverable was the final research paper, where they actually had the final draft of all their work, the culmination of all their research material, as well as a list of future implications that could affect that topic in the ethical environment. This is a course on computer ethics. For a framework, I didn't want to tell students, well, here's what I want you to do, here's the rules I want you to follow. I let the teams develop their own framework. So the first deliverable they had to make was a team contract. And this is where they had their contact information as far as, here's my name, my IN number, phone number, my email address. So teams should always know how to get in touch with each other. They would also define the rules by which they wanted the team to operate, as well as the penalties for students who didn't meet those rules. And then, of course, they would sign the contract. I actually created an ID for each student. That way I could guarantee that if the student had the ID there, that only they signed the contract. Therefore, they couldn't come back later and say, oh, I didn't sign that. As part of the prospectus and the midterm report, students also defined the expectations for the remainder of their project. Like, for example, in the prospectus, they had to define the set of tasks required to complete the research paper at a high quality. They also had to make task assignments for their various team members, as well as a set of milestones that the team would plan to meet throughout the term. They would then create a schedule showing when the tasks were due, who was assigned to complete that task, the milestone expectation date, as well as the various meetings and other deliverable due dates throughout the term. And then, of course, the midterm report gave them a chance to assess their current state in the project. Which tasks did they complete? Which milestones did they achieve? Which tasks didn't they complete or milestones they didn't achieve? Why not? Then they would make an updated schedule of tasks and milestones to get them to the final research paper. For peer evaluation, I'd always had a major overall survey at the end. This is part of the assessment I would do for my course. But even in my face-to-face class, students would complain that they only had one chance to really say, hey, my team members didn't work very well, or I had to do too much work. And so what I did was I created a team anonymous survey. This would allow students to say, hey, on this deliverable, this student didn't perform very well, I did more work, or hey, this student did awesome. And this way, I could actually apply the grade for that deliverable differently for each student on the team based on their evaluation. In fact, I told my students, even in the syllabus, 50% of each deliverable is based on your evaluation. So the team could actually ace the deliverable, but yet a team member could actually fail the deliverable based just on their evaluation. Also, I had a team status report. As part of the team contract, each team would select a team captain. And the team captain would then, on each deliverable, provide a team status report. This gave me kind of an internal perspective of how the team was working, how the team members were working together, any issues that may be coming up right now that I may need to step in and handle before it gets out of hand and actually causes a negative impact on the team. And then for examples, for the team contract, the perspective, the midterm report, the research paper, even the status report, I provided examples. These are based on work that was created by other projects earlier in other terms that they could then use to follow. Well, here's the interesting thing. My second attempt at an online course was actually a success. Not only did the teams get through and produce high-quality research papers, in fact, the quality research paper was actually better than my face-to-face classes. And I think it's more because of the examples and also because of the fact I actually held teams accountable throughout the entire term. I went from having, 3,000 and 4,000 word, 5, 6 page, maybe 10-page papers to 30 and 40-page papers that topped out at 10,000 words. Very high quality, and also students enjoyed the project. I had a lot of students come back and say they really liked the process, the way it was laid out, the way they felt in control of their own project. And oh, by the way, no one dropped out because of the team project. Okay? Thank you very much.
I found this very helpful, by the way, because I do 2 projects in the same capacity. But what mechanism are you using for housing all these documents that you're providing and creating? I mean, obviously, Blackboard, are they discussion boards, are they wikis, and then the things that they're producing as well? Because that's what I find is hard to kind of sync all together.
Well, originally we used wikis as part of Blackboard, but then I decided the wikis were a little too restrictive. And so I started actually just providing documents through PDF on Blackboard, and then the students would actually provide me Word documents with their various submissions for their deliverables. So it was all handled through the either the file exchange or just submitted through the assignments on Blackboard.
Other questions?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine taking this framework and applying it to a smaller type of assignment? It could be downside.
Well, what's nice is the 4 steps that I mentioned are pretty straightforward, and they work great for a long term, but they can apply to a shorter term project pretty well without much modification. Now, of course, we're talking 1 week, 2 weeks, probably not. But if we're talking, a month, maybe half of like a midterm type project, they work great because this provides communication. And that's the big key to this, communication and keeping the students involved in what's going on with the project. Too many times students just say, hey, project's not due for in a month, I'll be back in 3 weeks. And that's not good for the rest of the team.
Do you have a standard survey or format for your peer evaluation? And what kind of responses do you get?
Okay. Now, for the overall, I actually use the CATME survey, which I don't know if it's required, but I use that for my assessment on my course. For the actual surveys I use for my peer evaluations, I have 10 criterion that students answer, and I kind of like just cherry-picked various evaluation items from different surveys I'd found online, and figured, hey, this would be a good collection of questions to ask my students. And it looked at things like, did the student attend meetings regularly? Did they make a positive contribution to the team? Because you can attend meetings, but you can actually detract from the quality, the actual information you do in the meeting, actually be a detraction or a distraction.
Your question?
Have you tried using the same framework in the face-to-face classes? I mean, obviously, the structure that we already run is project planning, milestones, charter, all those sort of things that help you get through a project. I would think also, have you just done a study between online versus face-to-face?
I have not yet. I have plans to do so in the spring term. I've already done this twice in my online class. I'm going to do it a third time, and then during my spring term, I'm going to have a couple classes that I will try this with my team-based projects with him as well, just see if it carries over just as well in a face-to-face environment.
Do you find students receptive to the idea of peer evaluation, or do you have a lot of complaints about being evaluated by other peers?
Actually, I was concerned I'd have too many students get mad because they got a poor grade due to the evaluation. But it turns out most of the students that I actually approached, so, yeah, I think that was true. I didn't really, I had too much coursework to do. I didn't really pay attention to the project, or I didn't attend a meeting. And they were actually very receptive, even though they were maybe not happy with it. They understood that they deserved the grade they got. Also, the students who were the high achievers, the ones that felt they were doing all the work, they felt better because now they could actually tell me, hey, Jim, I did more work, these students didn't do, and therefore I feel I should deserve a better grade than other students who didn't do as much work. One concern I had that didn't actually pan out was I might have a vindictive student or even a set of students who may try to gang up on another student in the team in order to give them a very poor grade. Never happened. And again, I've done this twice and I have yet to see that happen. I've actually had teams come to me and say, hey, Jim, this one student's just not performing. I would say, guess what? The evaluation, give them poor grades. And they've done just that, but it hasn't been vindictive. It's just been, hey, this is what they deserve. So it's been very, very receptive.
Just a quick one to piggyback off of that. Do you make this evaluations available to everyone in the team to see, or are they just for your purposes?
I'm the only person that sees the answers. And therefore, so.
They're anonymous, right? So you don't know who's sending it to you.
Oh, okay, it's anonymous as far as the team's concerned. Each team has their own set of evaluations, so I have each team member listed. I tell the students who are evaluating their team members, just don't put evaluation for yourself. And I also know, because Blackboard keeps track of the N number who submitted it, I know which team member submitted it. But all I do is I simply look at the result or the average of each of the evaluations to make the grade for each student in that team.
Okay, so if the student got a poor grade because of that, they would come to you and say, did I receive a bad evaluation from my teammate? Process.
So far, I haven't really had anybody come to me and say, hey, why did I get this grade? I have gone to some students. The first time I did this, I talked to some students that had got poor evaluations just to see what was going on, and they admitted that they didn't really work as well that particular deliverable. And then they turned around the next time and did much better and got much higher evaluations.